we change. And where you thought your limit was or your needs were, they're not the same tomorrow. And then you have to figure it out again. Like, okay, is 30 minutes of a hike enough for me, or do I need 1 hour? And then how do I make sure that I get that hour?
We like to learn about new practices, and and in that sense, our industry, it's like it's ever evolving. And now, like, trying to wrap my head around AI and all of that's going to affect our industry, and then into Theatre Art Life and what's evolving in media and AI in media, and like it's just like I just need to be in a world where I don't need sleep, so then I can continue to learn. But unfortunately, we all need to sleep. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for another exciting year of adventures and professional endeavors and personal successes and all of the rest for me and mine, but also for you, and for many more podcasts.
And we're on, Anna. Good to see your face.
Do the intro thing.
We don't need to intro each other. We know each other, although I don't know if we've seen each other enough this year. Isn't it been funny? Because I was thinking before I got on this call how we have touched base only for this podcast in the last 6 to 8 months. And most of the time we've breezed in, done the interview, and then breathed out of the thing, and never having a lot of time to be like, hi, Anna, how are you? What's going on in your world? Do you feel that?
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's kind of crazy because I remember doing interviews all throughout the year, but it's just like, oh, it's over. Okay, let's schedule. Yeah, and we managed to do the interviews. Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, there's been major challenges this year, for all of us, you, me, and Kat, and I'll catch up with Kat. We can't even get the three of us together in a 3-week period to have this end of year call. Like, how crazy is that? Like, it's just been I know that Kat is over at Royal Albert Hall putting the Cirque show in, loading it in right now. And you were on a cruise ship for how many months?
Beginning of the year, maybe 2-3 months at the beginning of the year, and then in Montreal for most of the year.
And
but it was busy. Also, it was freaking busy. Yes. And you have been all over, like Vegas, Hong Kong, Macau, Saudi.
Yeah, our poor assistant Russell is like, where in the world are you? And can we schedule? Not only are we scheduling 3 people across 3 time zones, but the actual guest as well, right? So it's like, who can show up to this interview?
And we all moved. I think it was nice that we all started saying, by the way, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. So tell me, for you, like, what have been like the big achievements and challenges this year in 2023? Well, now that we're in last year.
I'd say time management, perhaps, or being able to cope with reality. And I'm usually pretty good at planning, but then one thing is to plan for yourself and then everything else that happens, or plan for your team, and then world and other things way out of your control happen. So I think probably that. You?
And for me, well, I left a company and started a company. That wasn't a small, that wasn't a small thing. And it's just been a crazy year. I think that a lot of the challenges is just, I have a high capacity for work and working hard. But when you keep saying yes and you keep doing more and more and more, there is a limit. And I think I've found my limit. And I need to know where that line is and try not to cross it. Not that my health is still good or whatever, but get to the point where you're like, okay, I just need to slow down, right? Because it just doesn't stop. And I think one of the things is just being uncomfortable in mess, because when you start to take on so much as a mother, as a wife, as a full-time worker, as a person who also runs a business, it's just too much at some point. And you have to say, okay, this next hour, you can all F off. I'm going to go for a hike. You know, I think people who follow me on social media just like see me hiking, but that's all I post. But it's really my only sanctuary, right? Is to just get away and go into the bush and hike. And it's been a good one for me. So like I think that's what I've learned this year. And but into all of that, also just how long things take to happen. You know, some things you want to move far and you need patience. You know, starting a new company takes patience. And there's lots of things coming up for Theatre Art Life this year that's in development, and announcements on that will come soon. But all of the work, when you see the developments of Theatre Art Life, you'll be like, oh, that's a change. But they don't know that there's 6
How
to 8
much?
months of work behind that change, right? And how much goes into meeting people every night or being on Zoom and constant conversations. But, you know, you just continue to learn and grow and expand. And I love that, right? So
I think that's more or less where my comment was going at, because also we change. And where you thought your limit was or your needs were, they're not the same tomorrow. And then you have to figure it out again. Like, okay, is 30 minutes of a hike enough for me, or do I need 1 hour? And then how do I make sure that I get that hour?
no, it's true, isn't it? And like, how do you sort of balance life, especially for you? You've had to move. I mean, I travel a lot, but you've literally moved around a lot too, right? Like, do you find a new routine when you go to a new place? Like, what did you do on a ship compared to what do you do in Montreal? Because it's cold up there too.
Well, it was not too cold, but yes, it got to minus.
Because you were there for summer.
Yeah, it was, I'd say a little bit of spring, summer, fall, and the beginning of the winter. I think we got until minus 12, the coldest I got. But I try to stick to, like, for me, it's very important to be able to exercise every day, get my 8 hours-ish, 7-ish hours of sleep, and then eat healthy, like to all the moms, eat my greens and all that. Well, as long as I can get in all those three, I'm pretty much set. I do need to, like, I don't like to sit in front of the computer for a long period of time, so stand up and walk around or have a standing desk. That, for example, in Montreal. But on the shape, I was mostly diving or doing automation or running shows in some sort of shape or form. So usually that meant I was up and moving, which is nice. But yeah, routine definitely changes from the, like, am I doing late shows? Am I doing early shows? Am I doing office hours? Am I doing weekends? Am I doing weeks? But then, yeah, as long as I think those three core covered, and then get some time to read or walk or talk to my family, then everything else will kind of hopefully fall into place.
Yeah. What's your exercise of choice?
It really responds to the circumstances, because if I can swim or dive, I will do so. But that's not realistic. If I have a good bicycle and not even good bike lanes, but space to go and do a 30, 40, 50 kilometer bike ride, that'll be it. But if not, I always have my 2 feet, and I can go off and at least do loops if that's the worst that I can get to. I try to do yoga every morning so that I can stretch and not start to get all stiff, because I do feel that when I don't do it. You?
I think that's like, yeah, it's funny because I think one thing you have to learn when you're traveling around a lot or moving around a lot is that flexibility. You know, I also like watch things on social media or whatever. They're like, this training regime and this thing. And you're like, I could never, that requires me to be in the same place for more than like 2 weeks.
Can I do it in my hotel room, or can I do it in my cabin on a ship?
Yeah, like the place that I'm right in now. I'm in a hotel room right now, and it's kind of weird because I think this hotel is scheduled to be renovated and stuff. So the gym doesn't exist. You can go to the hotel next in the same complex, but it opens at 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Well, that's my work day. Like, there's no way I can like get a gym shift in the middle of that. Like, I have to have it done at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. So, if I'm going to get a workout in, so my routine is, generally I've got a workout, I've got a yoga workout. I've got a body weight workout that I do on a yoga mat. If I can get to a gym, I'll do weights, and then I hike. But or if I can't hike, I walk. Right. So I do sort of cardio and strength, and then flexibility with yoga, and I will rotate through those 5 to 6 times a week. Like I'll work out 5 to 6 times a week, and I might have 1 or 2 days off depending on my stuff. Actually, interesting enough, we don't need to get on women's things, but like I've been listening a lot about sort of perimenopause and menopause, because I'm in my 40s now, and that's impending. And they talk about how I've listened to a few podcasts about how it's really important to ride the energies of our cycle, right? And so the last week before your period, you should really, really slow down, and then after your period is your peak to do the bigger strength work and the bigger stuff. So I've actually been following the cycle of my energy in association with that, and staying in tune with that. So my workout sort of ebbs and flows in intensity based on that cycle. And same thing with my work, actually. They always say that if you could, in this one podcast I listened to, they said if you could map out a woman's ideal work schedule, they'd go 12 hours a day for 3 weeks of the 3 weeks of the month. And then in that last week leading up to your period, you pull right back and do minimum hours. And if you watch your energy levels like that, when you're forcing yourself through that last week before your period, I now that I've been following it, I really notice that, and I'm much gentler on myself in that week. And the fruits of that has been huge for me, because I know when I come out of that on the other side, this is my go time, right? I get as much done as I possibly can from a work perspective and physical perspective, and then ramp down. It's cyclical. And I find that really, the more I learn about your body and your rhythms, and I think it gets important as you get older too, like you're just not as resilient. You can't smash out a 16-hour day and not be affected by it as you get older. Like it's something that happens,
Yeah. No, I agree. Like for me, I don't think I've ever got into that detail yet, but I definitely feel how energy has been changing, and it changes with the seasons as well, and within which countries am I, or which city, or the physical environment
and what
around.
diet you're eating, and how cold it is,
Yes.
and humid.
Yes, those are huge. The diet is huge, and yes, humidity, how hot more so than how cold, but I guess both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I'm of the person that if I can't eat certain healthy foods, then won't eat at all, which is not necessarily good, because then I just start. I'll come home from traveling and I'll be like, I'm half the person that I was. Like I get really skinny sometimes. I've got to please eat. I've got to eat. I've got to stay alive. I know for some people it's the opposite, but for me it's a real challenge. I've got to focus on at least trying to keep myself sustained when I travel, because when I travel, my body just I get really skinny.
Well, I usually don't, but I definitely struggle to find food that but you start to it also becomes part of the cultural experience, I guess. Like I try to have a mostly vegan diet when I can, and I usually can eat.
Really? I didn't know that about you. That's an effort, right? Especially, how do you do that on a cruise ship? And
Well, the cruise ship wasn't too hard compared to being in Mexico or being in Portugal. And guys, there's veggies out there, let me tell you. But you go to a food court and you have all sorts of meat, and all kinds of meat with all kinds of fat. but then that's it.
Mm.
Like,
Yes.
if you're
And
lucky,
is,
you'll get lettuce.
yeah, exactly. And is that a choice? Like, or what's the reason for being vegan?
Um, I wouldn't call myself vegan because there's times where I really don't have the choice and I have to eat, but something else. And my body feels it a lot, especially as I age, I guess, or I don't know, as I get more
Hmm.
used to not to. Um, it was definitely a choice, but by chance kind of thing. Because I started removing, like, first, I grew up in a region where beef is really good and they produce beef. And when I moved out, it was very expensive and very bad. So I was like, I'm not gonna buy crap
If it's
expensive
not from
beef.
my region, it's not happening.
No,
That's it.
if it's not good enough, it's not happening. Um, so I started eating more fish because that was the local thing to do, and I would get fresh fish. But then, and chicken was always kind of in the middle, but the more I know about how they treat chicken and the more like it's easy to picture how they're treated, it's heartbreaking. Um Eventually, like, fast forward 10 years, one day I was like, well, I don't eat beef because of this, pork because of this, chicken because of that. There was not one reason, but they'll fish because of this, milk because of that. I don't like eggs, so I'm stuck with butter, yogurt, and I think that was it. I was like, well, I bet those are that I do like them, but those are kind of easy to replace, and it's healthier for me to say I'm not gonna do it so that I do it right. And I started, okay, so I need this many proteins in a day, and these are the list of things that have protein, and I need this much fat, and I like more on the macro level, and I don't follow it religiously, but it was like a good conscious thing of like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right for myself and not just being picky for 1,000 reasons.
Yeah. Commit. Go in or go all in.
And it was probably the 18 months that I was able to do it like all the time. Um, it's probably one of the best periods in my life where I've been in contact with myself. I was at the beginning. I was in the Hudson Valley in New York, and I was biking about, I don't know, 10 miles one way to go to work and back. Um, so I was fit, but I had so much energy. I could concentrate for so long. I could get so many things done. It was just, I was happier.
Mm,
Well, not that I'm not, but
yeah,
like there's more energy, more
yeah.
endorphins. So yeah, those 18 months that I was able to be fully vegan the entire time, it was great. There was the one day
Oh, that's
or the one period where it was probably about a week where everything smelled like chicken. Everything in my life smelled like chicken. And it was at the very beginning when I was, I guess, still trying to get it right. So I just went and had a piece of chicken and then moved on from that.
You're like this. I apparently I need to eat chicken right now. It's happening.
Yeah.
I love that.
But also, I guess it speaks to like what you were saying, flexibility and being able to both listen to your body and then adjust to what the circumstance is calling for. And so, yeah, I had chicken once and then was able to go back um, vegan for
Yeah,
the rest of those 18 months.
yeah, and I think it changes too, right? Like the cycles of your age or your body or like where you are. Like it's very hard to be so regimented, I think, in the lifestyles that we lead. So what does 2024 look like for you, Anna?
Ooh,
What's on the horizon?
I don't know.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question for myself and the universe. I'm finishing this project that I'm working on. I'm heading to Italy to finish this project for about 2 months ish, and then by mid-March I should be free. Well, I should already be looking for something else. Well, that's what I'm doing. Looking for something else for, let's say, springtime. and we'll see what that something else is and where does it lead to. Yeah.
Nice. It's kind of good. Do you fear when you have nothing ahead, or like how do you just sort of plug away at trying to find the next thing, and or do you stress about it?
Sometimes I do start to freak out, but then I remind myself that my escape plan and my emergency plan is always to have enough money in my bank account to buy a full scuba kit, because I don't keep mine if I'm not diving, and a ticket back to Mexico. So worst case scenario, I always come back to Mexico to Cozumel and teach diving. And when I think about it, it's like, okay, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's such a good backstop, right? To have something that's always there, a scuba kit and some diving lessons, right? Like that's awesome.
and I like it. I miss it. Sometimes I wish I could be able to do both a little bit more in synergy, and not have to pick one over the other most of the time. But yeah, but it is stressful, and I don't know, but we'll see. It's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. What about you? You have OLC, you have projects in Macau, you have...
Yeah, we're currently in Macau, but we've got a bunch of things coming up. Obviously, I probably can't reveal too many secrets on what we're working on and what's happening, but there's lots of exciting things. What I think's been really interesting about forming LLC is that we've been coming up with a number of original concepts for shows and new I wouldn't say new forms of entertainment because nothing's new, but like new ways to execute different shows, and have a really exciting dinner theatre concept, which is not really like a dinner theatre because I think that comes with a certain connotation, but it's not like that at all. And some other projects that we're now shopping around and in discussions with potential development, and that's a new. It's kind of like nice because you're like, a lot of the time you're getting like a client to come to you say we want this, but when you are on the front foot and saying let's give you this, as opposed to do you want this and do you want to buy our concept, rather than being in response to somebody asking you for something specific, it's kind of a different approach. It's harder, right? Because you've got to convince people that the product that you've designed or the show that you've designed is valuable and that it's worth investing in, and that realm of business I have growing into as opposed to something that I've done for a long time. So that's a good learning curve, and I'm surrounded by people that are really experienced in that. So I learn from them, and I just, everybody tells me people say, oh, what do you do now? Is I just do budgets and timelines and budgets and timelines and budgets and timelines. And then I hire people. I feel like that's my life. But I love process. I love the idea of taking the idea to the reality, and being in a place now. It's really, as I've moved out of the actual interaction with which I've done for since 2017. Actually, I haven't really been a stage manager as such anymore. I've been more of a producer and stuff. But I felt a kind of like, I guess I'd say, it's not a grieving, but it's like, oh, I've left all of that behind, and what's this new role? What do I get out of this? What do I get out of this role where you're not actively in the show? And I think having built some shows in the last few years that have turned out really well, it's such a reward to see a good team working together and know that you've helped build that. And I find a lot of satisfaction in that. And I think it's very, you can't ever build the perfect team, right? Like, but to bring the right level of skill and the right personalities and create the right energy is really important to me, because it's not just about, well, you fit this job description and you're qualified. It's about who you are as a person. It's about how you're going to interact with this person and this person and this person, especially when you're going into new markets that are really tough, like Saudi Arabia or, developing countries like Vietnam or places like that. Like, developing countries in terms of entertainment, right? Like there's not a lot of experience. So you're not only trying to roll out stuff, but you're trying to educate in practices or theatrical practices. And so that takes a lot more effort than just rocket out a show in a well-established country, right? And so you've got to have a team that's willing to commit to, bridging that cultural gap or bridging that educational gap on the ground in a kind and respectful manner. And that takes time to find the right people to do that, And so I love that. For me is like a big human puzzle. So that's what I like to do, and that's really rewarding, and I look forward to doing that more this year.
I feel like that transition for you from stage management to producing was a little bit more, I mean, it happened naturally, but I don't feel like you necessarily looked for it. Like at the beginning, I feel like you were still like looking and going back to your stage management career and things, and slowly you start to move on and go flow with life. Am I right?
Yeah, and the reflexes of stage management really work well as you work into, like it's organization, it's working with people, it's managing people, it's similar sort of skills applied in a different way. I guess there's still a lot of upskilling you need to do. You have to get really good at, thinking about Excel or Google Sheet budgets and formulas and all the things. There's still scaling up there. But I also like to be on the growing edge. Like I feel like if I've not mastered something, but if I know something well, it's like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what do I need to learn now? And yeah, so no, it's true. Yeah, but you never really let go of your stage manager in a stage manager, that's for sure. And I still refer to myself as a stage manager from time to time, right? Like I still don't see myself as whatever my title is now. Like in my mind, it's just little Anna being the stage manager in another role.
You're stage managing the room.
Exactly. Yeah, but I'm like you and I are like tech geeks, right? Like we like to learn about gear and we like to learn about new practices, and and in that sense our industry, it's like it's ever evolving, and now like trying to wrap my head around AI and all of that's going to affect our industry, and then into Theatre Art Life and what's evolving in media and AI in media, and like it's just like I just need to be in a world where I don't need sleep so then I can continue to learn. But unfortunately, we all need to sleep. So.
You will never ever learn everything, I guess. Not you,
No.
like as we will. It's just too much.
Unless you can turn my brain into an AI machine, which is probably not going to happen yet.
You can use AI. I'm sure it helps.
Exactly. It helps me with Google Sheet formulas all the time these days, because when you can't remember how to do it, you're like, how do you do this? And then AI says, that formula. I'm like, sweet.
Great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch base on?
No, just that, like, I hope that I get to see more of your face this year, and we've got more time to hang out online. If not, see you in person, which would be brilliant.
That'd be great,
because we've had such a long-standing relationship since we started this podcast, and
True.
We still haven't seen each other in person.
Nope. But happy 200 plus episodes, though.
Isn't that funny? We've done 200 plus episodes, and we've never sat in the same room together. When it does happen, I'll be giving you the biggest hug.
I don't even know if we've ever been in the same time zone.
Well, we'd have to look at, this is probably true as well, right? Has it ever happened? Oh my goodness. Wow. Poor Rochelle, who has to organize our lives.
Kudos to her.
I know. All right. Well, much love, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
See you around.
Ciao.
And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Art Life podcast is proud to be sponsored by ClearCom. ClearCom is the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of ClearCom Intercom Solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out.
Hello, Kat. Good to see you.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was laughing with Anna yesterday because the ridiculousness of our schedules in the last 6 months and what Rossell has had to deal with to try, like, where are you in the world and when can you do this podcast? And we realized, like, even now we can't get the three of us together and across these 3 weeks to do a New Year one because we're that busy. So
Rossell is an absolute saint.
yeah, so it's like where, and not only our free schedules, but whoever the podcast person is as well, right? So whoever the
Yes.
guest is another factor of it. So tell everyone where you are right now.
Well, I am currently in London. My show, Cirque du Soleil's Allegria, is loading into the Royal Albert Hall at the moment. So we just started all of our trainings and validations yesterday. So we're in the middle of a very crazy week of getting ready before our previews and eventual premiere. It's been really hectic, but really fun. And it's like a total crazy privilege to be in the hall. So we're all having a really good time with it.
Yeah, I was just saying before we got online how iconic it is when Cirque get to take a show into the Royal Albert Hall, and it's one of those really significant things.
Yeah.
Sort of I think for most people outside our industry, it's not a big deal, but for us, it is to have said that you've done a show in there, and especially a Cirque show because it has challenges, right? Taking it from a big top into a venue.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, you walk the halls and you just every foot there's another portrait on the wall of it, just the insane talent that's graced that venue. So it's like a constant reminder of just how lucky we are to be in there. But yeah, it totally does come with its challenges because typically, we're traveling with our venue. We travel with our big top. So, it's a space that we're used to. And it's a space that, over 1,000 performances, you really get into your bones. So it's been a fair amount of adjustment happening going into the hall, changing blocking. Obviously, there are huge technical challenges bringing a circus show that's normally in a big top tent into a hundreds years old theater. It's just a totally different environment. So there have definitely been some challenges, but things are going really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yesterday when we talked with Anna, I asked her, and I'd like to hear it from you too, is like what has been the most, like, the challenges and also the highlights of 2023 for you?
Yeah, I mean, 2023 was like an amazing year. With the same Cirque show, I spent almost the entire year in Japan. So we did 6 months in Tokyo and 4 months in Osaka. And living in Japan was like a dream of mine for a really long time. So that was really fulfilling in a whole lot of ways. It's challenging to do a long run at any point in time or anywhere. But that one was particularly difficult, I think, for our group, just because we're not used to sitting in one place for so long, doing shows 6 days a week. So it was really like a test of endurance. But I think we all came out of it a lot stronger, and just had, of course, a wonderful time in Japan. For me personally, it was also a year of like discovering new things that I'm interested in as well. So we had like a very long tour break between the end of Osaka and coming here to London. And I've been wanting to kind of get back into the event world ever since I worked in Dubai on the expo. Like, I love working on kind of fast-paced, variety, different events. And so I wanted to see in that tour break if I could kind of translate that home as opposed to abroad. So I've been working on getting kind of into the event scene in the US. And I was able to work on some conferences and award shows, and this really cool big hotel opening in Las Vegas. So for me, personally and professionally, it was like a really good year of enjoying all the things that I have been doing for the last few years, but also exploring some new stuff, and getting lots of time with my partner, Ian, that I don't normally get, and seeing family and friends. And yeah, my cup is very full coming into 2024.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that you had a good year. So,
Yeah.
and what's on the horizon for 2024 for you then?
Oh my
You don't know?
gosh. Yeah. Well, it's it's always a mystery, right? In some ways, but for now, London, Royal Albert Hall, the next 2 months, I'm really looking forward to just soaking in this experience and getting to enjoy the city, and then looking at some travel in my tour breaks, of course, exploring
Yeah,
Europe, because as you know, Anna, I do not stay in one place ever.
that's it.
So we'll be doing some European travel, I think, and then the show will move to Barcelona in March, and then we're looking at a year in Spain. So
Wow.
lots of fun stuff coming up for sure. I'm
Have you ever spent much time in London?
in London, no. And that's the funny thing is actually back when I worked on ships, I spent a lot of time in Europe, all around the edges, basically. But no, not any time in London. So this is like a new city for me. I'm really loving it so far. I'm already looking around and going, why isn't this a 6 month sit? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to be a really good time.
Ah, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't been really over to London for such a long time. And it's, yeah, I lived there for like, I don't know, 3, 4 months, many, many years ago. So yeah,
All
that's
right.
interesting.
Well,
It's a good place to hang out.
Anna, if you want to come visit.
Yeah. I just got to bring my whole kids. And I said, like, the next time I go to Europe, I have to bring the kids. Because, like, the problem when you have expats, when you're an expat wife and mother, is that when it's holiday time, which is very rare, but you go to the grandparents in America or the grandparents in Australia. And so your whole life becomes visiting family and not actual
Hmm.
ever trips just for fun. So it's
Yeah,
like
of
I always
course.
watch Friends without kids just go zipping off here and zipping off there. And I'm like, ah. Also, I have to say, post pandemic, the prices of flights are ludicrous, right? So
It's
when you're
rough.
like, yeah, when you're thinking about taking the family to America, I mean, you're dropping 11 grand right there on economy
Ugh.
just to get over there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, I can't, I come with baggage now.
Yeah. Really expensive baggage.
I know, but they're cute, and I love traveling with them. So I have to go to places that I could take them. But yeah, I mean, I've had so many invites to get over to Europe. I think we just need to bite the bullet and do it one day, and just do a bit of a tour. My kids are pretty worldly though, generally. Anyway, like they've travelled a fair bit more than most kids their age. You know, they've had passports since they were 2 days old because they were born in Hong Kong and had to go back to Macau. So like literally getting a baby photo with your eyes open when they're 1 day old. Just picture that for a second and how long that might take. And then when they have their passport, they have it for 5 years, right? So when they're 4 years old, you hand the passport over to immigration and they're just like, it's a baby at 2 days old.
How do
It's
you
like
possibly
nothing.
confirm? Yeah.
There's no facial recognition whatsoever. They look like a shriveled up prune and that's it, you know?
Well, at least you can kind of trade passports if you need to. It doesn't even really
Yeah,
matter.
yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, no, now they've got ones that have a semblance of them, but kids change so much at that age, right? So
Of
a 5 year
course.
pass, you know why they keep it for 5 years, because 10 years would be impossible.
Yeah. Well, even the 10-year one, if you get it like me, I think I got my first one when I was 13 or 14. And so when I first started on ships, I had this just pre-adolescent
13-year-old
photo
picture.
of me on my passport. It's like, I swear this is me. I'm so sorry.
That's fantastic. I never thought about that because I think I got my passport like for the first time when I was about 19 or 20, and the first time I
Hmm.
went overseas was 21. So mine would have been like a decent similar age to
Yeah.
when I was first traveling. But a 13-year-old picture is still super funny. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about personally, like beyond work and everything, like health, wellness, family time? How did that go for 2023?
Yeah, well, I mean, having the long tour break was definitely really nice for getting to see some family and friends that I don't normally. And then my mom came and visited me while I was in Japan. So that was awesome to kind of get to share that with her. And, you know, be in a place that I love with a person that I love is always nice. Ian, my boyfriend, he comes and visits me everywhere that we are. So he's been a real trooper, I say, as though, this is difficult in any way to
A
come
hard
and
life.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough life. He's got to come visit,
Yeah.
Tokyo and
Moonlight in
London
Tokyo
and
and London.
Barcelona. Yeah. Yeah. He's got it really rough. But, but yeah, so he's been visiting me and my mom's been visiting me, and I just had a really nice um, amount of time at home to actually spend with people, as opposed to, just the rushed visits are always so hard, rushing off to work and then rushing off to explore the city that we're in. But just like having a moment at home was so nice, even though we didn't spend a single weekend in the place that we live. Like we were gone every single weekend of 2 months, because for some
Yeah.
reason I can't stop moving. So it's in terms of family and friends, it's definitely a good year to get to see people and enjoy some time that I don't always have.
Mm. And your partner's not in the industry, correct?
No, he's not. No, he actually works for NASA. He's an aerospace engineer. So he started as a musician, and we met while we were working on cruise ships. So he
Mm.
understands like completely
Yeah.
this whole world, and
Life.
doesn't even bat an eye when I say, "Hey, I think I'm moving to Dubai next week," or "Hey, by the way, I'm gonna go on tour." It's like not even a half second hesitation. It's always just like a yeah, awesome, which you don't always get if you are with someone who's in a different industry. They don't always understand, but luckily he comes from cruise ships and music and everything else, so he's extremely
Yeah.
supportive, and like I said, he's got
But
just the worst life visiting, so
I know, but hold on for a second. When do you go, I think I'm going to stop being a musician. What should I do next? Maybe I'll work for NASA. I mean, that's a bit of a leap.
yeah. So Ian is probably the smartest, most insanely awesome person that I know. And he's a multifaceted man. So he was a professional musician for about 10 years. And then when COVID hit, we had discussed the possibility of him going back to school since there was more time. There weren't any gigs. It just made sense. He had about 1 year remaining in a music degree. He had left school before to kind of pursue stuff with his band in Nashville, and then never went back because he ended up on ships for years. And so he had either 1 year left in that, or he could pursue this other thing that he had actually always loved and had taken a few classes in before that would take 3 or more years to complete. And we're like, hang on, this is a little bit crazy, but it might be just the best idea ever. So he actually decided to go back to school for the full 3 years to get his aerospace engineering degree. And he's nearly finished. He's graduating in May. He's had amazing work opportunities in between that have kind of pushed this end date, but the end date is so near, and we're really, really excited. He's done a really good job. I think it's been really nice that even though we've been apart so much the last few years, that we've both been working so hard at our own stuff, and been able to really support each other from afar. And even though they're different industries, we still look out for each other the same way. And it's coming to an end. So soon, we'll kind of make our way back to each other and try to settle in the same place. And yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. That's a really good part. So it's nice to see that you support each other
Yeah,
and, in
100%.
in that both industries. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to say before we head into 2024? I mean, we're already here, but like we're really only just entered it. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for another exciting year of adventures and professional endeavors and personal successes and all of the rest for me and mine, but also for you, and for many more podcasts and
from wherever we are around the world.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me and Anna on this crazy ride a fellow podcast co-host. And I always know sometimes that, like, when we get on a podcast, like the end of a long day or the start of a long day, but I hope you feel as I do, but by the end of the podcast, I always leave feeling invigorated or inspired in some way. So it's something that I still really enjoy as much as it is a thing to really have to make happen in our busy schedules. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And it's so good to be in such good company. Thank you so much, Anna.
Good. Well, let's see you on the next podcast.
Okay.
TheatreArtLife is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theatreartlife.com.